so for this one, this is part B, so we're still using the f of x equals the 6x cubed minus 3. And the reason why I still have the step 1 and step 2 here is you always just want to go back to the rule for whatever comes first in the direction. So the first thing is a reflection, and it's across the y-axis. Okay, so the step 1 is writing the rule for reflection across the y-axis. And if you don't remember it, that's okay. It's on the front side. So reflection across the y-axis. So reflection, if it's across the y, it's f of negative x. Okay, so then that's what I would apply, is f of negative x. Okay, so then what that means is, in your original function here, this is going to be 6 negative x cubed minus 3. So when you're doing negative x to the third power, it's like you're multiplying negative x times negative x times negative x. You can also think of this as a negative 1. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is apply the exponent. Negative x to the third is negative x cubed. Okay, the negative stays in front. So then you're multiplying 6 times negative 1. So this is negative 6x cubed minus 3. Okay, and I know that some of you can just jump from this step to this step. That's perfectly fine. And then this is what you're going to use in step 2. So for step 2, we're going to find the rule for the vertical shift 2 units down. Okay, so again, if you need to, you can always go back to that first page and look for the vertical translation. So if you're going down, you can see it's going to be the subtraction here. Okay, so the rule is f of x minus 2. So in this case, you aren't plugging anything in for x, you're plugging in the entire equation. So this is negative 6x cubed minus 3, and then you have the minus 2 on the end. Like I said, whenever I plug in the f of x, I do use the parentheses in case there's something I have to distribute. But in this case, there's nothing in front of the parentheses, so I can just combine my like terms. So my final answer should be g of x equals negative 6x cubed minus 5. Okay, and that's going to be my final answer. Okay, example 5 is the same type of question as example 4. The only difference is your function is changed. So now your f of x is 8x cubed minus 2. Okay, but you are still writing a function. And you still have steps 1 and 2. I just didn't write them out like I did here. Okay, so when you're doing your homework, you'll have this and you'll do your step 1 and 2. Alright, so the first thing it says is we're compressing horizontally by a factor of 1/2. So that's the first one. And then the second thing is reflecting over the x-axis. So you do these in the order that they are written in the problem. Okay, which means for our first step, when I think of the compressing horizontally, I can look that up, or I know that it's f of 1 over bx, okay, where the b value is the factor. Okay, so my b value is 1/2. So you can think of this one of two ways. If you were to do 1 divided by 1/2, okay, 1 divided by 1/2 is like 1 multiplied by the reciprocal. That's the division of fractions. Or, remember, we've been practicing that 1 over b means the reciprocal. So your rule is f of 2x. Okay, so the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2. So that's why this is 2x. Okay, so now we're just going to plug that into our function. So our function is 8x cubed minus 2. So remember, what I like to do is 8x cubed minus 2. I like to set that up, and that way I can just drop in my new value for x. So instead of x, I have 2x cubed. Now the thing you want to watch out for when you do this is people forget that you have to do 2 to the third power. Okay, what's 2 to the third power? Good, so this is 8 times 8x cubed minus 2. 8 times 8 is going to be 64. And then this is what we're going to use in step 2. Okay, so step 2 is the reflection over the x-axis. So again, I always start with what is my rule. So if it's the x-axis, I remember that negative goes on the outside of f of x. Okay, this is my new f of x. So this is negative 64x cubed minus 2. So when you have that negative on the outside, you're just going to distribute. So it becomes negative 64x cubed plus 2. Okay, you guys want to see if you can do the first step of part B? All right. This one's worded a little differently. Right, so this one was compressing horizontally, this one was compressing vertically. We actually have already done a vertical transformation today. Okay, so if it is on the outside, just like we distributed the negative here, because the negative was on the outside, for this one, when the 1/2 is on the outside, we're going to be distributing that. Okay, so 1/2 times each. This would be 4x cubed minus 1. All right, now your step 2 is to move the x-intercept 3 units right. If you're moving the x-intercept, what type of transformation is that? Yeah, good. It's a horizontal transformation, or translation. Well, both. Okay, so it's a horizontal translation. 3 units to the right. Okay, which means the rule is f of x minus 3. Okay, so that's what we're going to use in our step 2. And this guy comes here. So 4x cubed minus 1. And then all you have to drop in here is the x minus 3. Okay, and then I'm going to give you a minute to simplify that how you want to. So if you want to use Pascal's triangle, great. If you're like, nope, I want to write it out 3 times, FOIL and distribute, okay, you can choose how you want to do that. I'll actually take a minute to think about that. Okay, how many of you are going the Pascal's triangle route? How many of you are not going the Pascal's triangle route? A couple of you? Okay. For one ones like this, I do like the Pascal's triangle, and so I usually just do like a little sidebar. And notice that we've had a lot that are just with the cube, so I feel like we got this down now. X cubed, x squared, x to the 0 is 1. Just remember, this is -3. So -3 to the 0 is 1. -3 to the first is -3. And then if you want to, just do -3 to the second. What's -3 times -3? 9. What's -3 to the third power? -27. Yep. So just write it down like that. And then from there, you just have to multiply straight down, right? X cubed, -9x squared, 9 times 3 is 27x, minus 27. And that's what you're going to plug back in here. Just going to give myself some room to do that. Minus the other one. Okay, so when you distribute the 4, you'll get 4x cubed, -36x squared. 4 times 27 is 108. So this is minus 108, minus 1. And it's fine if you do that at the same time. I'm just going to write out my final answer with my g of x. So 4x cubed minus 36x squared plus 108x minus 109. All right, how do we do? Got it? Good. Okay, now the last one, we are going to reflect across the x-axis and then move the x-intercept 4 units to the left. Okay, so reflect across the x-axis. And then when it says that you're moving the x-intercept 4 units to the left, now we know what that means, right? Okay, so the reflection is negative f of x. So negative 8x cubed minus 2. And then really with this, you just have to be careful if you already have a negative, that changes to a positive. Now we know if it's the x-intercept, if it's going 4 to the left, that's f of x plus 4. Okay, so then we have, why don't you just go ahead and plug it in. All right, how's the step 2 go? How's your setup? Okay, you can see the more that you practice this, the more fluid it's going to become. So again, let's use our good old buddy Pascal. 1, 3, 3, 1. And then with the x's, cubed, squared, x to the 0 power is 1. This is a positive 4. So 4 to the 0 is 1, 4 to the first, 4 to the second is 16, 4 to the third is 64. You see how quick that is? If you haven't been using Pascal, I do recommend that you do it. Okay, and then, like I said, to save time, I will plug in my answer here. So 1 times x cubed times 1, 3 times 4 is 12, so 12x squared. 3 times 16 is going to be 48, so 48x, and then 64. And then I still have my plus 2. Alright, so then we're just going to distribute the negative 8. So negative 8x cubed minus 96x squared, negative 8 times 48 is negative 384, negative 8 times 64 is negative 512, and then when you add 2 to that, you will get your final answer. And again, if you want to calculate that and then do the plus 2, so you don't have to write it out twice, that's fine. And you should get negative 510. All right. And then the last one is an application with a story problem. So for example 6, it says the number of skateboards sold per month can be modeled by the following equation. I always like to highlight my equation. And then they say this is where x represents the number of months since May. Let g of x equal f of x plus 20. What we have to do is find the rule for g and then explain the meaning of the transformation in terms of monthly skateboard sales. Okay, so finding the rule for g, that's going to be finding the equation. Okay, so it says let g of x equal f of x plus 20. Okay, so that's going to be the simpler part. So the first thing we're going to do is find the rule. So to find the rule, we're going to do g of x equals f of x plus 20. And we're just going to plug in our f of x. Now, when you're plugging in the f of x here, you have the plus 20. You're going to end up adding that to the like term. What's the like term in f of x? Yeah, the 130. Okay, so that means your g of x, your rule, is going to be 0.1 x cubed plus 0.2 x squared plus 0.3 x, and then 130 plus 20 is going to be 150. Okay, so it said find the rule for g. So this is the rule for g. Okay, now we have to explain the meaning of the transformation. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to understand what our input and our output is. Okay, it says the number of skateboards sold per month is modeled by the equation. So does that represent our input and our output, or our output? What's our input of the equation? The input is going to be our x value, right? And what does it tell us that x represents? Okay, so x represents the number of months since May. That's going to be our input, which means the skateboards sold per month is going to represent what? That's our output, that's our f of x, okay? So it says explain the meaning of this transformation. So you have this plus 20. Does it apply to the input or the output? Yeah, the out. If it was applied to the input, where would it be? Yeah, it would be inside, directly on the x. So this is a vertical translation, 20 units up. Okay, so the skateboards sold per month, that is your f of x, which is your output. Okay, so the plus 20 also affects the output. So this means the number, if I added 20, what's happening to it? It's what? Yeah, it's more skateboard sales, yes. Okay, so the number of skateboard sales increase. Yep, by 20 units. I'm going to give you the rest of the time to work on your 3.8 worksheet, okay, which is a mandatory assignment. It needs to be submitted in Google Classroom by 7:40 a.m. and we're going to talk about some things with your homework, okay? That is mandatory. If you want to do extra practice for points, then you can submit this, and I'll have 2 different places for it, okay? Then you can do this for extra practice, okay? And then that's the same. So if you don't do it, I'll put the asterisk in, it won't count against you. But if you want a little bit of points going in, then you still have the option to do that. Okay, the 3.8 worksheet though is mandatory and you will have points for it.